Hi there. This is a love letter meant specially for healthcare workers and people that are working on the front lines of our healthcare and whatever faculty that is. I come here with great gratitude to you that you have chosen to show up in this field, that it becomes increasingly challenging in the world that we're in right now. And I just want to acknowledge how much struggle you have had to face, a really unique struggle in the last 19 or so months. We're still in this pandemic. We don't know how long we're going to be in this pandemic. And you are some of the people that have really held up our countries in many ways, and held us all up and supported us and kept us safe as much as you could. And you're under a great deal of stress and overwhelm, I can only imagine. And so I'm the author of, my name is Heather Plett. I'm the author of this book, The Art of Holding Space. And incidentally, this book was inspired, first of all, by a healthcare worker, a nurse who was at my mother's bedside as we were supporting my mom in her dying days. And so I have gained a lot of wisdom from healthcare workers. So I want to acknowledge that up front. And then I also want to offer you a little gift. I'm here to offer you just a little bit of the teachings that I have developed in my book and in my workshops. And I hope that it will, in some small way, support you in your work and in dealing with the increased stress that you've had to deal with in this last while. The concept I want to talk to you about is something that I call psychic membranes. Now, you're healthcare workers, so I know I don't have to teach you about the cellular membrane, but I want to invite you to consider this cellular membrane that we have in millions of cells in our body as a way of reflecting on how you can hold space for yourself right now and how you can look after yourself. Now, if you read any self-help books or follow any self-help teachers online, you've probably heard talk of boundaries, and some of you have learned about how to have healthier boundaries. I want to offer a bit of an alternative here because the boundary language sometimes feels a little rigid, and I want to offer a sense of a membrane. I want you to imagine that you are being held, that you have the capacity to hold yourself in an invisible membrane. You can kind of picture yourself in a large balloon that protects you. And as you know, the membrane is permeable. It lets in the good, healthy things. It pushes out the things that it no longer needs or that are unhealthy. It has the capacity to become more rigid when there's a virus in the environment, for example. The cell membrane becomes a little more rigid, keeps those things out. It knows how to connect with other cell membranes. A brain cell knows how to connect with another brain cell. So it has these really remarkable qualities, and I want you to imagine all of those qualities are holding you in this membrane. And this is really how I teach people how to hold space for themselves. When I teach about the art of holding space, I often talk about being the bowl for everybody, for other people, but you can't do that for yourself. So instead, we need this other membrane. And a healthy membrane, as I said, it protects you from harm. It allows nutrients to pass through. It moves unnecessary things out. It feeds the mitochondria, which is your energy store, like your car battery. It warns you of intruders, and it connects you with like-hearted people. To keep your membrane healthy, what do? You seek balance in your input and output. You strengthen your boundaries against those who cause harm. So this is where the boundary language comes in. You practice radical self-love. How can you care for yourself so that you are healthy? Because your membrane is really trying to maintain homeostasis. So the pressure outside and inside is basically balanced, and you are not going to either explode or implode. And you have to learn to honor the messages from your body, develop some spiritual practices and creative practices, and be mindful of your needs and your desires in order to be healthy in how your membrane functions. Now, I want to talk a little bit about, I've rushed through this a little bit. If you want to learn more, I welcome you to read about this further in my book. But I want to get to another concept here in this relatively short video. What happens when your membrane is in relationship with other people? When you meet other people, you bump up against their psychic membrane, and maybe you get a signal of some kind, an intuitive hit, whether this person is a safe person or whether maybe somebody you want to steer clear of. And in these relationships, we kind of develop a social contract between us. It might be spoken or unspoken, and that's how we're going to relate, how we're going to lean into each other, how we're going to treat each other. And we choose how much connection we want. Think of your friends, or do you have a kind of unspoken social contract that you phone every night, or you only phone once a month, or every relationship has a different kind of social contract about how you're going to connect with them. When we hold space for each other, we can essentially create a container where we can support another person. So if one person, or call it a cell, is under a lot of stress, is under pressure, or is in the middle of grief, they've lost somebody perhaps, another cell can come, and I know you have to use your imagination, this isn't scientific, this is metaphorical, but another cell can come and create a container where they support that cell in wrestling with whatever they're going through and hopefully becoming more healthy. However, sometimes when there's, this can be an unhealthy thing where there becomes some codependence and there's maybe blurring of the lines between the cells. This is not something that we want. We want to maintain our own identity and our own unique healthy cell in that relationship with another person. Now, sometimes we are holding space for far too many people. And this is when we get a squished cell in the middle of all these other cells. And I've showed this picture at many, many retreats, and a lot of people, I can hear this audible kind of sigh because they recognize what it feels like to suddenly have everybody relying on you. You are holding space for your family, for your friends, for your clients at work. And perhaps this feels familiar to you right now, especially in a pandemic when things are under a lot more stress. All of the people in your life are under some stress, your family members, if you're a parent, your kids, if you're a healthcare worker, the people that you're supporting in healthcare, they are all coming to you for something, and you become very depleted in this and really kind of squished in this. It can actually become a form of oppression where you're not able to fully express yourself and live in a healthy way because so many people expect so much from you. What we're all seeking, what we would love to have in our lives, is a balanced relationship. And you can see this kind of looks like a yin-yang, where one cell sometimes holds space for another and then the other one holds space, and they take turns. And if you have a healthy friendship or a partnership in your life, you know what this feels like. One day you might be having a really bad day and you can call that friend and they'll listen. The next day they'll be having a bad day, and it goes back and forth. Even within one conversation, there is this flexibility and there's a sense of flux and flow in that relationship. This is what we are all seeking. Unfortunately, it doesn't always happen in our relationships. What is, I think, even more of an ideal is that we find a sense of community where one cell can rely on another cell, and that cell can rely on another cell, and we are not depending on any one person for all of our needs. We are having different needs met by different people, and each of us is yet solely responsible still for our own cell and how our cell is interacting with other cells. We're not imposing things on them. We are taking responsibility for who we are and how we show up in the world. So how do you incorporate this concept in your life? Well, I want you to, as I mentioned earlier, I want you to think about what makes your cell membrane healthy. How do you find good boundaries right now? How do you stop taking on more things than you can do? I want you to pay extra attention to what you're allowing in and what you're keeping out. What are the things or what you need to keep out right now? How much can you handle right now? Maybe you can't handle as much as you normally could, and you have to say no more often. And take some lessons from your cell membranes, your real cells that, like I say, become rigid in times of a virus. Right now might be a time to become a little more rigid, to say no to more people, to simply take on less tasks. Find healthy ways to release what you shouldn't be holding in your membrane. And some of those healthy releases might look like movement practice. Perhaps you're a runner or a yoga practitioner, or there's something, or dance, some kind of movement, or an art practice. Something I often do is express myself through messy art, and that helps to release and also helps to complete the stress cycle so that it doesn't stay stuck in your body. And be with people who help you to feel safe right now. You can be extra selective right now. You don't need to apologize to anyone. There's going to be time in our lives for the other peripheral relationships later, when we have a greater capacity, when our membrane feels more solid and well-resourced. Now is not necessarily the time to be looking after everybody's needs. This has just been a really short snippet of this. There's much more to learn. You can find out in my book, The Art of Holding Space, A Practice of Love, Liberation, and Leadership. And I welcome you to check out our website, centerforholdingspace.com. Specifically under the certification link, it's called Path to Certification. If you look under our foundation program, we have a number of courses. We have a year-long or 8-month-long program starting with the basics of holding space that's really meant to support you in deepening your practice in holding space, both for yourself and for other people. I hope this has been helpful, and I wish you a beautiful day.